All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's get this party started.
Do you want like a third angle?
Actually, will you mute your microphone so I'll turn my mic on?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Turn y'all's volume down. There we go. This is our first hybrid event of the season, of the year, since the last time we did this about 18 months ago or so. We had a couple people show up today. It's definitely not a full crowd, but we're trying. Our next event, we're planning on doing a more in-person as much as possible, but we are still going to continue to keep the hybrid idea in mind because we want to make sure everybody can come and be comfortable at the event. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So today's event or today's presentation is going to be on resumes, and then also we'll be doing some interviewing workshopping as well. So that will be today. If anybody that is new would love to take some time and fill out our brief survey we have up here on the top. We have both English and in Spanish. It's just meant so that way we can provide better quality content for the group. It just asks general questions about your different languages that you use for coding, things you'd like to learn about, something we can do for future events, just really to build events and build things that we can do for the next potential events. Also, we have a Slido set up down here on the bottom. Feel free to click on that or to check out that link, and we'll share that here in the chat in a second. So if anybody feels like they'd like to ask a question, want to keep it completely anonymous, that's the link for you right there. We'll answer it as soon as any questions do come in. So feel free to hop on that whenever you're ready. All right. So I'd like to thank the Capital Factory. They are our sponsor for this evening. They've been our sponsor for a number of years now. We are actually in the Capital Factory today. We're also using Zoom that's provided by them. So we want to thank the Capital Factory. We'd also like to thank our two speakers today. They are Lisa and Nada. Did I say it right? Perfect. Okay. From Data.World and SpyCloud. They're also here helping us out today as well. Oh, here we are. So just a brief introduction. These are both of them. They're both here today with us. Yes. Also, if you are joining us and this is your first time, you can find us on our meetup page. Click scanning our QR code down here on the bottom right. Okay. So a little bit about Hispanic Hackers. For those of y'all who are new today, Hispanic Hackers is a group of people who are either software or hardware engineers, primarily, mostly of the Hispanic ethnicity. And our goal is really just to showcase knowledge and experience and build out professional network for anybody and everybody and be all inclusive within the Austin area. Our organizers are Eddie Reyes, myself, James Lockwood, Laura Evans, and Timothy Huang. And the goals of Hispanic Hackers are advancing knowledge and technology in the technology space. We have monthly events featuring topics in both software and hardware technologies. We're actually trying to put together a couple of events that are going to be on the hardware side. So if you're interested in that, please keep an eye out for that. Another one of our goals is developing career opportunities for members. So we definitely do a lot to try to connect people connect our members with companies that support diversity and inclusion. We do whiteboarding and interview practicing events, so that way you can work on your skills to be ready for that in-person interview or test that you're going to take. A goal of ours is also creating community in the Hispanic community within tech and just being seen in the community. So if anybody is interested in getting involved, please let us know. If you're interested in doing a talk, please let us know. We are always looking for new people to join the leadership team. Any skill is definitely an accepted skill. It's all about just whatever we can do to help build a community and help each other out. So feel free to let us know, reach out to any of us on Slack or on any of our social medias accounts, and we can definitely get you lined up, get you participating and helping out in any possible way. Okay. So before we get started, we'd like to take a photo. If anybody is not interested in being in our photo, please, this is the time right now to turn your image off. And we're going to go ahead and do that real quick, guys. Stop the PowerPoint. Okay.
We do that too. That sounds cool. Yeah, they're into my background.
Let me see. Laura, can you get that, the screenshot?
You on a Mac?
Yeah.
Shift, try shift, man. Or shift.
I work on a PC. There we are.
Does that work?
There we go. Ready?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's okay. Okay, cool. Ready?
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Wait up. Let me turn mine, because mine's different.
We're gonna get it together.
3. Ready, James?
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
That's like,
All right.
That's like probably the first hybrid picture,
That's
right?
our first hybrid picture.
Let me get my screen sharing back again. All right. Share.
That's right, yeah.
I think we're sharing again. Let me. Oops, WebEx kicked us out. Share screen. Okay, that's connecting again. Technical difficulties, guys. Sorry, but we're getting there. We'll be right there. Again. There we go. Perfect. All right, we are back. Whew. All right. So some social events that are going to be coming up. In July, we're planning a pool party event. It's going to be here at the Capitol Factory. Those of y'all who did not know that, there is a pool here. It is, it's on the roof. So this is not one of those high school jokes. It's actually on the roof, guys, okay? It's on the Omni side. But we will have more information as the time draws near. We'll be sharing that on Slack and then within our normal meetup page as well. We're going to plan to do the introduction or do the talk on how to start your startup business at the pool. So it should be fun, but it'll also be informative and good for anybody that's interested in trying to start a startup. For August, we're still planning on doing a scooter crawl, and we'll be starting here at the Capitol Factory as well, taking a tour here, probably taking a tour at like Galvanize or another co-working area, and then try to schedule out a couple other facilities or companies in the downtown area that we can stop at, get a quick tour of, learn about. So that's going to be our social events coming up. We're also still working on t-shirts. So if anybody knows anybody that does t-shirts, please let us know. Laura's heading that up right now. This is our design idea that she's working on for us. We're still working on stickers as well. Right now there's a lull and they're waiting on the vinyl to come in as of last week. So as soon as they come in, we will have some cool stickers to share with the group as well. So yes, next month's event is going to be on how to build a startup. It'll still be the same time, same place. We're going to try to do hybrid. We'll see how much hybrid we can do. Probably we'll have a poll. We'll have a GoPro, or we'll have the iPad linked up with Zoom. So if you're interested in watching the presentation, you'll be able to still participate in that as well. So that'll be there. We'll be doing that. Please RSVP if you're interested in joining that event, and looking forward to seeing everybody there. Ways to find us. You can always find us at the taco truck. You can find us at the Capitol Factory or on the river. We typically go there at least like once every 2 weeks. We're there on like the weekend. So if y'all ever want to come hang out with us, we are doing paddleboarding or we're doing something. We are trying to just be out as much as possible, safely as much as possible, and just work on getting to know more people and introducing ourselves. You can also find us at our website, Hispanic Hackers next.versailles.app. You can find us on our Slack channel. You can find us at meetup.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And then you can always reach out to anybody at the Capitol Factory, and they can get a hold of us as well. If anybody's interested in joining our Slack, here's our QR code down here on the bottom. That is the introductory link to our Slack channel. Oh, nice.
Yes, they bought the old Turkish chicken, so now they're gonna have, in like the next 3 weeks, they're gonna actually have a building.
Oh, wow. One on Riverside?
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
I don't know. So, okay.
It's very important. It's very important information. Nice. So guys, tidbits of information. There will be a new taco place on Riverside. Get ready. It'll be great. All right. So this is a short, brief platform for anybody in the audience. If anybody's looking for work, I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. All right. Oh, I hit the wrong one. If anybody's looking for work, feel free to raise your hand. Let us know. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're looking for, and then after that, we're going to see if anybody's company is hiring presently, and see if anybody can get connected with each other. So yeah, is anybody looking for work right now? Go for it, guys. You want to introduce yourselves to the group? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're looking for.
Sure. I'll go first if that's okay. My name's Leif McCrum, and I've got a background in UX design. I went to UT through the ACT Lab and studied with Eric Gold from Monkey Media and Sandy Stone from Sandy Stone. And I taken some time off, kind of went in a different direction, and now I am back into UX. I have my resume and my website, and I'm also taking a data analytics course right now through UT. So I'll be doing that for the next 42 weeks, but I am looking for a gig in UX as well. And I'm open to any feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Saw some other hands up, guys. Feel free to share.
I'll go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Alma, and I am a recovering classroom teacher, a coding bootcamp survivor, and a cybersecurity advocate. So I am currently looking for any type of role where cybersecurity and training overlap. So it's security awareness training, learning and development in a security related organization, and anywhere that would have to build out compliance, like GRC and doing any kind of auditing. Yeah, so that is me. I am on LinkedIn, and a shout out to James. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm really excited to be here. So thanks.
Yes.
I'll go next. My name is Jose. I'm actually transitioning from the military. I'm retiring of 20 years. I have a background in electronic maintenance, and I'm going through the galvanized level up program that helps soldiers transition out of the military give them some career skills. So right now, since I'm still going through the training, I'm just open to any entry level jobs and just kind of learning more as I go. And that's mine. That's me.
Laura in the background over there is excited. We all are. I wasn't in the military boot camp side, but I did go to Galvanize also. So it's possible. You can find work. You can find work.
Giving me hope.
David Alvarado here. I spoke last time. I'm a project management type guy. I do, build and operate PMOs for usually pretty large companies. I've been looking for a while. I just rolled out of a job I didn't like, which is great. And I've got interviews fairly consistently and still looking. Haven't closed the deal anywhere.
Good thing you came to this event. We can help you out with something, hopefully, as far as this resume going or the behavioral questions, interviews, and stuff like that as well.
All right. Sorry, I have my camera off. So my name is Lorena. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I go? I don't know if there was somebody else before me.
You got the floor. Go for it.
Okay. So my name is Lorena. I also graduated from a boot camp back in December, but I started really looking for a job in March, and I think I'm up to like 150 resumes sent out, and I'm just waiting for the first bite. So I've been in quality assurance for 15 years, but I'm looking for something different. I'm looking to change my career. So I'm essentially looking for an apprenticeship to kind of get my feet wet and go from there.
Awesome. All right. Was that everybody? I think so. So anybody that their company is hiring. I know my company is hiring. I'm finally able to say that I'm with the company. They are hiring front-end and back-end developers, UX, UI people, and a bunch of other positions. Feel free to check it out. Our company is called Win Reality, and I will drop that into the chat real quick. Anybody else's company hiring right now, guys? Yes, go for it, Laura.
Yeah, so hey guys, as I'm sure everyone knows and sees on LinkedIn every day, Amazon is hiring. So I wasn't a PE at Amazon. I went into an apprenticeship, so now I am a program manager, so I definitely shift gears there. But yeah, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I will post my link in the chat.
All right.
My company is hiring.
Ooh,
Yeah.
tell us more. Tim, I will mute so that you can have the best possible mic.
There you go.
My company's hiring too. I'm with Data.World. We'll be speaking with Nada a little later here in a few minutes, but we're looking for senior platform engineers. We're looking for design engineering managers. We're about to be looking for UX UI designers, so feel free to send me your resume directly so that we'll have that in the queue for when that comes up soon. And then I'm also hiring for a lot of sales and kind of the other side of the house.
Great. SpyCloud is also hiring. And we are also looking for a senior platform engineer. So that's Python and strong AWS, kind of are the big things. We're looking for a QA engineer, someone who's got strong test automation background and good, strong Python and some experience mentoring other team members. We're hiring some sales engineers, not in Austin, but well, they could be anywhere, actually. That's kind of a good thing, right? And then the majority of our growth, aside from the engineering roles that I've mentioned, we're also looking for a data engineer, some data engineers, a database engineer, and a senior UX developer, right? So I just invite you all to go to our website and take a look.
Samesies.
They're all posted there.
I'm sorry, was that Laura? Is that your, apologize if I didn't catch your name in the first one, lady that spoke, the first one?
I'm Lisa Novak. We'll introduce ourselves even in more detail here in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks. And your company was?
Data.World. You can find us at Data.World.
Gotcha, thanks a lot.
Perfect. Okay. Oops. Why am I better? There you go. Yes. Okay. We're back. This is fun, guys. This is great. This is our first time doing this hybrid event, and we're gonna blast here. Trust me, this is so much fun. There's four people with computers on the desk. It's great. We're having a good time here. All right, Eddie's here. Great. All right, let me get back to sharing my screen again. All right. And now the presentation. Woo! Dun, dun, dun. All right. Without further ado, there we go. All right, ladies. How would you like to do this? Come up here. Perfect. Yes. Just be careful with the cords. I've tripped. Yes, do your best.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting us back. I don't even know what camera we're on. I know, I don't either.
Either one, you can use this one or you can use the one.
Okay, all right. All right, well, I'll come over. So there you go. I know. I'll be back here. Yeah. So, okay, are we decided we're good? Okay, good. Yeah, we all are. We all are. Let's just stipulate that. Yeah. But we are really excited to be here, and Lisa and I are going to talk today about kind of preparing to interview, and then some things about interviewing. Between the two of us, we have more years of hiring and recruiting and employee development and HR. I've been with SpyCloud since March of 2019, and I started there as the first HR person, doing everything. We've now tripled in size, and we're kind of growing and scaling. So it's kind of a neat opportunity and a great time to be there. Lisa?
My story is going to be so boring because it sounds exactly like Navi's. I mean, I started in my company 1 month earlier. We've also tripled in size since I started. We're in a really similar role. I was the first HR person at Data.World and oversee all of the human resources aspects and components, with the most critical one at this stage of our company or any startup company in a high growth mode, and that's the hiring, the staff, and the recruiting piece. Nope, really, I'm still here with y'all, I swear. Sorry, you're making life better, I swear.
Okay, there. Is that good? Did that
so
work? Okay.
That has been, you can imagine, each of our companies tripling in size in the last 2.5 years. That's been a really critical component of our roles, is to make sure that, one, that we have the right processes and tools, et cetera, in place, that our hiring team are educated and trained to know how to run interviews, and then we can move the candidates through the process and ensure that they have an excellent candidate experience through the whole thing. The other side of what we have to do is, let's face it, evaluate people. We judge people for a living. What a weird job we have, isn't it? But that'll help us give you the tools that will help prepare you for the things that we're looking for when we're growing our companies. That's what we're here for.
Yep. So we want to know a little bit about you guys. We learned about which one of you guys are looking for, for work. Sounds like there's some folks that are doing career transitions and making, some that are just kind of interested in looking at something new in the same thing that they're doing. And we've got kind of set topics, but we'd love to know what you guys want to know. So maybe you can drop it in the chat,
Can we, yeah. Tell us what you'd like to know today.
There aren't that many people here, so
We
you're
can even
certainly-
speak up, yeah, because we don't even have to chat.
Well, for me,
Okay.
I'm kind of coming in this, I'm changing careers and like, I'm new in tech, so I don't really, I know it depends on the job that I'm applying for, but like, in general, like general terms, a resume in tech, what does it like look like? I guess, is it like, what would you look for?
Hang on. That is,
I muted this one.
Yeah.
there you go. That is absolutely spot on what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the best ways to pull together your resume and then some of the ways to both network and prepare yourself as for those interviews. So you're hitting it right on the head. That's exactly what we're going to be talking to you about. What was your previous career? Where was your focus before, and now what are you focused on?
Before, I was a supervisor, so pretty much I ran a section of soldiers that repaired like radios, satellite equipment. So that was like maintenance related, and I managed as I progressed through the Army, I managed that section. But now what I'm doing now is going through a galvanized and doing a boot camp, and aiming to be a full stack engineer.
Okay, perfect. We have so many galvanized people in this group. I love it.
Yeah.
What a great partnership you guys have formed, whether it was intentional or not. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you thought about, and do you realize how many of those skills you gained through the first part of your career through that military background that can now be applied to your future career, no matter what it is, foundational, fundamental skills? That's something that we'll talk about, is kind of really knowing yourself and some of those skills that you bring that you might not recognize as valid and relevant still.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is out there?
We have one from the chat. It says, just talking about interviewing rubrics, best strategies to answer questions during an interview that are like yes, no questions, or give a little bit more info on, I guess, just yes, how the best answer.
I can elaborate more on that. Sorry, I'm eating pizza, so.
You're allowed.
Well, that's what we're supposed to be doing at meetups,
yeah.
right?
I know,
Yeah.
I know. That's I turn my camera off.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I recently had an interview. It was for a project manager position, but I was kind of surprised that the person interviewing me asked me yes, no questions. And I was like, yes, no.
You're looking to gain from this, honestly. So that's what we call in the industry a bad interview.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was going to be more blunt than that.
That's not someone trying to trick you. That's just someone who doesn't know how to interview very well. So this is a good example or a good kind of tip that you can use not only in this circumstance, but in a lot of situations in life. In fact, I just provided this tip earlier today to someone who found themselves kind of rambling and couldn't quite finish where they were going. And what I said to them is, if you can't figure out what you're supposed to say, try asking a question. Put the question out there and let them have to answer you. So it's the same story in a yes, no question in an interview. When they ask you a yes, no question, give them your answer. It's either yes or no. And then ask them why that's relevant to the job, or what they're trying to learn from that.
Or what else
how
can I
that could
tell you
apply. What else
about
can
blah,
I tell
blah,
you?
blah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Can I dig in further here? Et cetera.
Yeah. How can we dig in? Or you could even, if that yes or no question is hitting at something that's really a sweet spot for you, or something that you really want to emphasize about your background. What Lisa said, go deeper. You know, I'd really like to tell you a little bit more about blah, blah. And here's what I want to tell you, and tell them. Right. And take control of the conversation.
Yes, and let me elaborate on that. Yeah, that's right. Take control of the conversation.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a question. So I've got some experience from over a decade ago, working as a consultant in Portland for Best Consulting, working as a software UI UX person at Timberline Software. Where else? Built US Bank website back in the day, and bunch of stuff like that. I just heard a word that might solve my problem, which is on my resume, I was putting the most recent experience I had, which is a lot of kind of like what I call speculation design work, where I kind of like on my own kind of like did a UI redesign or UX redesign of different software and things. But maybe if I put relevant experience, I could dig back a little deeper. What are your thoughts?
Always want to see those commercial projects, right? You have, and
That's
here's the
what I was
difference, and
gonna
here's
say.
why. It feels unfair, like, but this is some of my best work. Let me highlight it. But here's the truth. When you're in a commercial environment, where you're doing commercial work, when you're working for another company, you have to follow their rules. You don't get to use all your creative freedoms. So you're not going to get those open parameters. You're going to have some guardrails, and we need to see and hear and know what you did and how you can behave and how you do your best work within that corporate environment or that company environment and within those guardrails. So that's why. And then what I would say to that, because you get to have, you're one of the cool people who gets to have a creative resume, marketing people get this, there's not a whole lot of us, you're one of them, and even fewer in engineering, so yep, you've got that job. And you can create your resume that has a little of your style and a little of your personality in it, and you can use your highlights, whether it's, you know, how the cool kids are doing it down the side of the resume now in the margin instead of on the top in a summary, in a unique way, and really highlight some of those things that you want to show from your most recent project work that you've been doing, but still manage to keep yourself looking like, hey, I've got this corporate experience and I know how to work in that kind of team environment too.
Okay, so you would suggest that I put experience that goes further back, like a decade ago,
Yeah,
as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
you've got that experience and you've done it. And plus, I mean, Timberland, if I remember right, that's an account or financial software, accounting software. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also said you had done work for another financial related institution, right?
I implemented the US Bank design for that's still in use for their usbank.com.
Knock, knock. FinTech is hot right now.
Super hot. That's
Knock,
the
knock.
market you need to be in. So
Yeah.
yeah, you've already got it. You need to be shining, tooting your
Plug
horn.
FinTech.
Okay, so I need to rework that into my resume, because I honestly just put the most recent work that like I said, was just me, like showing that I was up to date. But yeah, I can put that in there as
Put it
well.
all in there. All of you is all of you, and
Well-
and you don't know what someone's going to be looking for. So and Nada will talk more about kind of how to craft the best resume and kind of how to brainstorm your way through that.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about how to leverage it well, right? But yeah.
Who else is out there? What else do you want to hear about?
We have a question from Lorena. There are currently a ton of resume scans that look for specific keywords. What would you recommend for my resume?
I know, right? That's again going to be something we talk about, and that's really going to be about the brain dump that Nada's going to walk you through and kind of coach you through how to build your resume. And it's about getting all of those words out there and then figuring out the way to narrow it down. And so, and that's what you're looking for is, I mean, I can put all the words, but that's going to look messy on my resume, right? How do I know which ones to
Right.
choose? And you're going to figure out which ones to choose based on which roles you're most
Applying
interested
for.
in.
Yep.
What are you applying for? What threads are you seeing there? What common key phrases are you seeing in those job descriptions? Those are the ones we're going to highlight on your resume.
Can I add to that? Well, the reason I'm asking is because it's a new career for me, so it's limited of the words that I can use based on my last job and so forth. So it has nothing to do with, I guess, software development. So it's kind of hard to have even somebody look at the resume if I show no experience.
You've got skills and experience. Be careful not to limit yourself to just your experience.
Right.
Those skills still exist, and those keywords are in your new skills.
And then Lisa's going to talk about how you really, sometimes to make a career shift and to get into a new arena, where what you've got to do is network and meet people, and people who you meet and people that you know, and people that will help you get to know other people that will help you get jobs. And sometimes when you make that change, what you need is that first connection, right? You need that first connection. That comes from networking. So, you know, and you're going to have kind of a two-pronged job search, right? You're going to do the thing where you're applying. And Lorena, I think you said you'd already applied to like 150 or sent out 150 resumes, right? So it may be that to make the change, you know, let's think about tweaking your resume so it's a little bit more, maybe a little bit friendlier to those bots, right? But then let's really think about like, okay, how do you network? So that you can talk to someone and say, this is the experience I have, and this is how I will leverage that experience to use these new skills that I have and to develop other skills, right? Because, you know, a job search strategy has got to be, you got to have many channels going at once, you know, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We'll talk about a few of those.
Okay, keywords. All right.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to tell us your story?
Well, I'm a little bit different. I'm an older worker. I run into a lot of ageism. My full-blown resume.
Hey, sunshine, we're in the same zip code.
Yeah, my full-blown resume for all the companies I've worked is pretty long. So in deference to what Leaf was speaking about earlier, I've crafted a much shorter resume, but a lot of the key experiences that are applicable to today were stuff that I did earlier. So my experience in the job market post, I saw that was one of your topics, but post
Pandemic,
COVID, lockdown, whatever it is, has been people are just aiming for, most of these companies just aiming for degrees and qualifications, you know, degrees and certifications. That's it. It starts and stops there. The people I interview with usually are pretty inexperienced. It's pretty rough, not from the idea that the positions aren't out there, but from the idea that the people that are at the wheelhouse running things are pretty just unethical. There's ethic problems all across the board, simply because they get into social situations that they can't work out of. And then there's this huge embarrassment moment. And it's been like that for me for over a year, just pop, 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 one right after another. So I don't know that there's any solution to that, but that's just my situation. So.
Pardon my French, but it's a bit of a shitstorm of a scene. And we know that because we watch it. And we also know it because we hear folks like you tell us all the time when people say, thank you so much for calling me back or for responding to my resume. And that just makes us aghast. Like, of course we're responding to your resume. You took the time. And not everyone has that same philosophy. It's also, our market is moving very fast. We've got people changing jobs every 9 to 18 months. Like, what the? We can't keep up with that even as hiring agents. So it's it's harder to do our job than it has been ever before. And post-COVID, this market is freaking weird, y'all.
It is weird.
There are some jobs that we get 1,000 resumes for, and other jobs that we used to get 100 resumes for and get 0. So it's a really confusing market.
And there was like this giant spike where we got a bunch, and now it is dry.
Just dry. So so it's been a strange time for us, and I think the collective we, the recruiters of the world, the HR leaders of the world, have been able to rely on some best practices in the past that don't necessarily apply right now, or we don't have the capacity or the time to work through the best practices in the way we used to. So there's a lot of that, and I'll give us some, forgiveness on that front. And then on the other hand, there's just a lot of bad. One of the catches of people changing jobs very frequently is that they don't learn a lot about the job they're in. And one of those skills you learn being in a job for a while is how to interview. And so people are thrown into interviews who just don't have the quality. They ask yes, no questions in an interview. I mean, what the?
And they're not prepared, and the hiring managers don't prepare them.
They don't know your resume, et cetera. They don't really know what they're even looking for. So they ask random questions and like, what's your favorite color? So we want to arm you all with those ideas of how to turn that around, how to be able to shine a little bit in those rough interviews. The other thing I'll say about that is those companies that are ghosting, those companies that are kind of rude during the process or just don't know what they're doing, that's kind of an indication that they've hired poorly in the past. How badly do you want to be a part of it?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kissing a lot of toads, and we know that.
Well, and I think also just kind of responding head on to the ageism comment, I actually think that those of us that have more experience have got to rethink how we interview. And I think, I actually think sometimes we have to go in and facilitate the interview for ourselves and make it the experience that we would like to have it, right? So when someone asks a yes, no question, or someone says, well, that experience is really old, like, you're right, it is. I did that a long time ago. Here's how I've continued to build on it and learn. And I think it's really interesting how I've done like, and then engage, like, how do you learn, right? Is that similar, right? I mean, you've got, because you've got the skills, you kind of actually have to deliver a little bit more, right? And I know that stinks, but it's the truth.
It's about owning your story. And on the other hand, you also get to own your story. So if you look at the silver lining of that, you get to drive your story.
You get to drive your story.
If they're not going to drive the conversation, you get to. That's harder. It's a whole skill. So let's talk about that.
I was going to say we can.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I was just going to add to that, that really my skills are relevant. The work I have is relevant. I've worked for some great companies that have, great reputations. That are very recognizable. I'll change that for very recognizable. And so the ageism doesn't come in usually until there's face-to-face, and all of a sudden things just aren't working out. And you find out that you're running against people who know a lot less, which points to what you were saying about not having control in your own company over that process of interviewing. And so, but that, I think this last company I had, they opened themselves up to a major lawsuit. And it's like, I don't roll that way, but I'm thinking once I do, land something steady, I'm going to go ahead and get with an employment lawyer and kind of explore that. I've dealt with it enough over the past few years that, it's time to go that route. But I just wanted to share with you, not that I need any direct answers, but I just wanted to share with you that I'm a little different from the rest of this group in that, I am older, I am experiencing these types of issues. So there you go.
On the other hand, you'll also see that a lot of your group here has transitioned careers and is in their, we'll call it second career and even third career based on some of the folks I met last year.
Right.
So I think you'd be surprised in what good company you're keeping right now and how similar your stories really are. The age thing, I hear you, and let's talk about how we overcome that.
Yeah, and we'll just kind of inject that.
Are we running the deck from here now?
You can still run it from there.
Okay. So we're going to start off with kind of really building your story, right? And that starts with your resume, kind of some online profiles, and then just a few words about social media. And I liked how Lisa said it, owning your story. This is really about owning your story, right? And you've just got to get comfortable with what you've done, what you haven't done. And I mean, I kind of feel like resume preparation is your journey to self-awareness. And one of the interesting things I realized that most of the jobs that I've gotten through people that I know. And then in my process before I went to SpyCloud, I got invited to interview with a company where I didn't know anybody. And I'm like, oh, I really have to write a resume. I really have to write a resume. I can't just kind of put the companies on there where everybody knew me. And it was hard. I'm telling you, resumes are not easy. It's hard. I probably I was not a very mature adult while I wrote my resume. I admit it, right? So, just
whatever you got to do to get done.
Whatever you have to do. Well, so kind of the first thing, I've got like 3 steps to go through, right? And the first step is really to just sit down with paper or with your laptop or a whiteboard or kind of however wherever your ideas and your passion flows, and do a brain dump, everything that you've done professionally, right? And stuff that maybe wasn't paid, but it could be germane to the career that you're pursuing now. So you want to talk about every project you've ever done, right? Kind of anything, why you went to jobs, why you left jobs, why you loved managers, why you hated managers, why you loved jobs, why you hated jobs, tools that you learned, tools that you implemented, ways that you learned stuff, things that you were proud of, things that you were disappointed about. And what this really is to give you a good sense of like everything that you've done. And so that you know your whole story. And there's something about writing it down and thinking it through. And actually, if you talk through it with someone that you trust, like, you know, my poor husband is a very good listener. He may not even listen, he just is there, so it's fine. But, you know, oh my gosh, blah, 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 right? But it was really helpful because it helped me own the things that I may not have been as comfortable with or as proud of. It helped me frame like, yeah, I'm more experienced than this person that you're looking for this job. And here's how I demonstrate that I've been flexible and dynamic and always learning. Right? So again, this is where you get to learn your own story.
This is also that piece that we were talking about earlier, where your previous experience has skills and competencies that are going to apply to the job you're looking for now. This is where you're going to find those.
So it's all experience, not just for the jobs that you want right now. Right? So I think it was it Lorena, yes. That's kind of the gold for you, right? And also the gentleman who was in the Army, also the gold for him.
Yep.
Right? Because he has the leadership skills, the management skills, the working, you know, getting what he needs in a large, complex, slow moving organization or fast moving, right? All of that, you know, right? And then second, once you have all this, then just step back and like, okay, now it's just the facts, right? I am going to create a very clean, basic template of my experience that has just the basic facts, right? So you want your contact information, the dates of what you did and where, right? And really, this is short and sweet. This is just a couple pages. It's not more than that, you know? And, one of the things that I'm going to suggest, if you don't have words to exactly describe or that you really like to describe your experience, Google it. Just don't use the whole blessed resume, right? We actually had someone who we were excited about, looked at this person's resume. One of the engineering managers happened to go Google something and got a duplicate resume, right? It was exactly it. So, you know, use phrases, use Google to kind of give you ideas about the way to frame your experience. Is that me? No, we're good. Okay, no, we're good. That one. Okay. Okay, good. I am loud. No, you're good. And so is Lisa, so we're fine. Yeah. So, but the point is, you're creating a basic template, just kind of the facts. Just the bare bones, a framework that you can then plug in things that you did from step one into the third step.
Should I mute here?
Yes.
Okay.
Which? Okay, come on. I was using the.
Technical difficulties. So it worked fine, just 1 second.
It did. I did the same thing. Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Present.
That was funny.
Yeah, me too. Done. There you go. So, okay, so after you create a template, after you learn to use the software, sorry, after you create a basic template, then you're going to customize it for every role in every company that you apply to. And this sounds like a spectacular amount of work and a pain in the, and to a certain extent, yeah, it is, right? But on the other hand, because you've done all this work in step one, right? And you've done the work in step two, you've got a template, you're plugging things in, right? And your goal is to have your resume be a very straightforward, simple way for the hiring team to see why you're the best choice to take to the next step.
For that role, for that company.
Are you guys better on the sound now? David is so. Okay.
Echo-wise, like. Echo can that laptop go right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we do. But the main thing though, I want to go back to step one.
and what you've done, what, kind of your experience, how you've done it. So you want skills, experience, qualifications, right? Everything that you've done, not just for the jobs that you want now, because you want to be able to pull from the whole extent of your experience, right? And then you're going to be you're going to create that basic framework and then be very selective in step 3 for each job that you apply for, right? Any questions on that? Lisa, do you want to add anything?
Question.
Right.
So are you saying?
So kind of thinking about customization again. And I know that with monster keyword databases, cover letters may or may not help. But for companies like mine, we actually do look at them, and our recruiters do, right? And our hiring managers do, because communication is a big deal for us. So if we see a good cover letter, we're kind of excited about it. So
I'll tell you what, when we do jumping in on the cover letter, I don't usually pay that much attention to cover letter, I'm not gonna lie. However, when I do use it, as if I'm kind of on the fence about the resume. It doesn't have quite everything we need, but I know they're close. And if you've written that good cover letter that says, hey, here's why, here's where that gap is that you're looking for, lady.
Yeah. And if there's something kind of unique in your background that you want to highlight or explain, right? Use that. Really focus on what you're going to bring to the role and to the job and to the company, not what you're expecting to get from the company. That's actually something that, it makes me roll my eyes. I don't know if it makes you roll your eyes, Lisa, but it makes me roll my eyes. I'm like, I get it. You know what? If you come to work here, we are going to take good care of you. But it's like you're coming to work here to do a job. Right? That's the first and foremost thing. So remember that. So short, sweet, amplify what's on your resume. Do not kind of regurgitate it. Again, if someone's looking for leadership and you want to talk a little bit more about the kind of leadership that you've done, the kind of teams that you've led, talk about it. Lorena, you might say, I've had quality assurance in this area. I have this kind of methodology training. It applies to whatever XYZ I'm going toward now. Right? This is where you can start to draw that connection with where your experience fits with the specificity of the role, right?
Okay.
Edit it, proofread it. One of the best things that I've learned is to read it out loud. My lawyer husband taught me to do that, and it works really well, right? Because sometimes I think I'll write something really great, and then I read it and go, oh, wow, so that's helpful. And it also helps catch misspellings and grammatical errors.
I use Grammarly.
Pardon me?
I use Grammarly.
I use Grammarly. Yeah, there are
Grammarly,
tools.
I use that.
Okay, good. Yeah, good.
Have 6 of your friends read it, right? Someone's going to catch that and then you wrote they're wrong.
Yeah. Yep. And you want the friends that are opinionated, and that'll give you a straight answer. Same thing on getting feedback on your resume. All right. So many computers, I don't understand. All right. So, yeah, sadly, we are going to tell you you need a LinkedIn profile. Even Lisa will say this. Yeah, she will. And it really, it's kind of your professional. It's sort of like it's your professional app, basically. Think of it that way. So it should mirror your resume. It doesn't have to have as much detail, right? You want the same companies, you want the date line to mirror, because when I get a resume, I go to LinkedIn automatically because I'm like, oh, P.S., what does it look like? And who do they know that I know, right? Yeah.
Leaf asked, did you say that 2-page resumes are okay?
Yes, 2 pages, that's the most. That's the most there should be.
We're just not going to scroll that hard. And I will say a lot of people are kind of panic stricken about going past 1 page, but we are also past the 1980s. You can go beyond 1 page because all we're doing is scrolling, right?
Yeah.
We don't notice the difference of scrolling from here to here.
But beyond 2
anymore.
pages, we're not going to.
We're simply not going to. We're going to stop reading it about that stage because you only get a certain amount of seconds for us to scan your resume. So just know that, exactly. So just know that that's as far as we're going to look. So you're going to want everything in those 2 pages.
And actually that brevity is also, again, to your LinkedIn profile, right? You want to have enough information there, but like in the hotspots, like this is the place where if you have patents, publications, any awards, special projects, special recognition, causes that you're passionate about, because that's important, right? Include that there. And then get recommendations from your colleagues, because again, that matters. And then follow companies that you're interested in, right? So that you know like what news, they're getting funding, they got a new customer, they released a new product, they're doing some kind of new research. You want to be able
They're
to
hiring.
They're hiring. Well, they're going to be hiring if they're doing all that stuff, right? And you want to be conversant when you go in to talk to them, right? All right. So your profile picture, I mean, do you, but do it professionally, right? If it's you, smile, great. If it's not, okay, lose the sunglasses, lose the hat, right?
Don't cut your prom date out of the picture. We see what's happening there.
There you go, right?
That's what it
I didn't
looks
work my
like.
animation
No.
right, but that is what it looks like. And like people that are wearing sleeveless, not good. Sleeveless dress is not good, right?
Y'all get it? You get that if the picture's only from here up, you look naked.
Right? And any like gun muscle shots also not. I mean, just have it be professional, right? You want to look approachable. You want to look like you're like someone could have a conversation with you. Like it would be easy to have a conversation with you, right? Is there a question or is it already?
Picture with the fish, okay.
You know what? If you
What are you trying to say about yourself?
If you're applying for a job as a game warden or for a fishery or a professional fisherman or someone writing stories about fishing, sure, right? Then I think that would work. What do you think?
A company with a fish logo or slogan in some way.
That's
Yeah.
stretching it. That's stretching it.
Yeah, I don't. I think it really boils down to what are you trying to say about yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And if I want a job where I get to go fishing, okay, then that makes sense, right?
I mean, do you mean like a goldfish, like your pet, or are we talking about like you just caught a master bass? Now I'm just curious. There's no.
I think you're saying a bass.
The big one.
Leave the bass. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I get it, but I don't know.
No.
Maybe say that for your Instagram account.
You don't ask, you don't get, so.
So I do want you to know that employers do look at social media, right? And they look at and it's not illegal for us to do it. It would be illegal for us to make hiring decisions based on any protected class that we learned from about your, about looking at your social media. But we do go to look at your social media. It's like, how do you present yourself? What do you focus on? What else are you interested in?
What are your hobbies?
Right? What are your hobbies? And I mean, and candidly, depending on your role too, if you've got a public role, anything that you do anywhere represents the company, right? Anything that you do represents the company or could potentially, and it's not necessarily negative, right? If you have you just want to keep stuff that is pretty, I would say neutral and comfortable for most people, I think, sort of the way I look at it is like, if what you're posting would embarrass your future self, just don't do it, right? I've made this kind of complex flowchart, but the point is, our past online is going to follow us. Like, I'm so grateful that I did not have social media when I was right, and there are times when I posted stuff even when I should have known better, that I'm really glad I could go back and maybe delete. Hopefully no one's kept it around, right? But really think about it, because it does follow you. You want it to be positive. You want it to make a positive statement about you, about your view of the world, and politically neutral, right? Because we've seen what a flashpoint politics is. Now, if you're applying for a political job, that's a different thing entirely, right? But this is not a group that is
Or my company, because we're a bunch of rebels.
well, but again,
But know the
but if someone's
environment,
not,
know where your limitations
yeah,
are.
yeah, exactly.
How strong of a part of your story is that?
So you have no social media presence in your own name, and that's fine too, right?
Yeah,
That's fine too. I mean,
down with that.
most
That's
people,
safe.
Yep.
yeah, well, and most people I work in, in cybersecurity, most people I work with do not have one, or they've got one in a different format, right? I have a very kind of low key, kind of lockdown one, you know? So, but again, just remember that anything you do and say is going to follow you. And, you know, this group, I think, gets it. So any questions or comments about that last round, you know, kind of know thyself, have a basic framework ready, customize, and just, you know, kind of think about what you're applying for and how you can, you know, how you can plug that know thyself exercise into those specific jobs.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
And then we'll talk more about it. So to Lisa.
All right, so we've talked about preparing the document, so to speak. We've talked about preparing, preparing the resume, preparing your LinkedIn, some of your, call it your marketing materials. That is your collateral. That is your story of who you are. So let's talk more about how you tell that story. All right. The old, it's who you know. You know, Nada and I got together earlier this week, and we're walking through these slides together because it's been a while since we've hung out with y'all, and we evolve these, we change them up as the market changes. The market's changed a lot, as we were all saying at the beginning of this conversation. And as we were looking through them, you know, we immediately grabbed them and we're like, what all are we going to have to change? How much of this is going to have to shift? And what are we going to have to delete and rethink? And the reality is not a lot. Because fundamentally, foundationally, this is still the same stuff. It was my dad back in 1987 said the same thing to me. Oh, honey, it's about who you know when you're looking for that next job. About growing your career, it's about who you know. Our little meme here says it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. By the way, it's also about what you know and who you know. But for the sake of this conversation, let's talk about it, the who you know and who knows you. And so how do you develop those relationships? How do you build on that field of folks who know you and who you know? So a lot of candidates are applying to those same jobs that you want. We've talked about that as well. So you need to shift your priorities to networking, shift your priorities to not just applying for those jobs directly, which is a form and resource for looking for your next job, but another resource is to use your network and expand your network. So not the network you have today, the network you have next week and next month. That's the growth of your network, and you have to build that. You have to be responsible for that. It's hard. Ready? So we're going to do, we've got a lot of opportunities here. It's about getting the introductions, reaching out to people who can submit you as a candidate. You can find these people in the same way that you find other relationships, right? On LinkedIn, through meetup organizations like this, various user groups, anything that you're interested, special interest groups. Find those connections and take advantage of them. Again, this is stepping out of a comfort zone, especially for those of you who've got that, you know, engineering head down mindset. This is, you have to step out of your comfort zone, and that's what's happening in our market. We're going to have to ask you to do that. So go on to LinkedIn, and if there's a job that you are particularly interested in, find the people on LinkedIn who might work in that department. Introduce yourself. If you introduce yourself to 7 of them, one of them might respond to you and be like, I want the employee referral. If this person gets that job, I'll introduce you to my.
Most companies pay employee referral bonuses, right?
Take advantage of that. Hey, I can help you get your employee referral. Want to refer me to your such and such job, right? Depending on the job, depending on the role, look at the person's LinkedIn and their social media. Do they have a little bit of a sense of humor? Play into that too. So find these folks and develop these relationships. Contact the hiring manager and have your 15-second blurb ready in a written format. Work with multiple recruiting firms. Use that as one of your network, your resources. Sometimes people have talked to me and said, oh, I can't talk to this firm. I'm already working with this other firm. That's not how it works. They get paid by companies who they're representing. You want to be represented in all the companies. So work with as many firms as you possibly can.
And different firms have different sweet spots, no matter what they say. So if you can get connected with multiple firms, so when I say sweet spots, different firms specialize in different kinds of roles, right?
Someone might be great at data science in Austin.
Or
someone
DevOps,
might be
or
DevOps nationally. So yeah,
or they focus on diversity candidates, right? And it's worth looking for those. But then the other thing is, all different agencies have different relationships with different companies, right? There is no one agency that covers everything. So there are probably, you know, Amazon's an exception. There are probably, you know, 100 companies.
All the agencies.
Right. but like with us, with SpyCloud, we've probably got 5 that we use, you know, that's including our go-to-market go-tos. And they're the ones that we work with, right? And we will blow off other ones that contact us because they know us, right? So going back to Lisa's point, do not stop at one. I would do at least 3 or 4.
All of them. Talk to
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Talk to those firms who are hitting you up on LinkedIn. It's not going to hurt you. It's practice anyway, and that's building your network. So you might not want the job that they're talking to you about now, or they might not have anything for you now, but maybe in a month or maybe in 3 years, right? It's building that. And maybe that recruiter will work at a different recruiting firm by then, or in a company that you're interested in. But it's still building that network, building those relationships.
And that's a safe way to build a network.
It really is. That's kind of the point. It's kind of the job.
I'm sorry, I had a question.
Get yourself out there, be heard, be ready with your story, and we'll talk more about that, and be prepared to communicate your value. And that's really what we're going to be talking about next. Preparing yourself. This applies across the board. It applies to online networking things like what we're at right now, or live events. What we're at right now, as well as the interview process. Got a question.
Go ahead and try.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So did you say to message people on LinkedIn if they work at that company, if they're just a regular associate?
So as a matter of fact, I have a business development and was talking to a candidate, and one of my coworkers, one of the business development reps at the company, reached out to me and said, "Hey, this candidate reached out to me. How should I respond to this question?" And then the hiring manager said, "Hey, Lisa, this candidate I think you're talking to reached out to me about this. Isn't that cool?" And before I knew it, like 4 or 5 people in the company had said, "Jenny had reached out to me to talk about the job, to talk about the intricacies of, you know, what do you know about the company? Hey, I'm actively interviewing in your company." He barely got a phone screen from the HR lady. And he's like, "I'm actively interviewing in your company. I wanted to learn what I could learn from you. You seem like a really smart person, and you've been in this role for a year. What should I know about?" Like, it takes that kind of audacity, that kind of bravery, if you will, sometimes, but that has worked in his favor. He's learned a little bit about the company that he's been able to apply to the interview process. And frankly, 6 or 7 of us know his name, right? That there's a value to that. Yes, absolutely reach out. I wouldn't just, you know, shoot it at, introductions all over the place. Choose people who might be valid to that role or related to that role in some way.
And with whom you may have a connection. Hey, we went to the same school. We have looked for something in common. Hey, I'm interested in your company. I also noticed we have this in common. Would you be willing to talk with me?
Right. Oh my gosh, we both went to the University of Michigan, or oh my gosh, we were both in the Air Force, or right, find those commonalities.
Okay.
And you can connect that way with anyone in the company. Hey, I saw your company's doing this. Or also target the people who are more directly related to that role and think of a specific question that could help you. Think of it as 2 ways to what can you give and what can you take. The giving is usually, this is the skill I have, or, you know, you can make some money on me if you get that employer referral program, but you help me get hired.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. And again, I know that takes a little bit of bravery, and that courage is kind of the hard part. You can tell that, well, it sounds like both Nada and I are very extreme extroverts, but we're not. I am. She's not. And so it's taken this that same kind of bravery for her to get to that same spot in her career. It really is about just doing that. When you're in preparing yourself, so this applies to any number of ways that you can network, whether or communicate about yourself, whether that's networking at events like this or in the interview process. The first thing is creating and understanding your pitch or your networking note. How are you going to reach out to someone on LinkedIn? What are you going to say about yourself? what's your value and what's your ask, right? That balance. Know your resume and how it applies to the situations. We're going back to what Nada was talking about, the exercises, and that's that next bullet too, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing your resume and how it applies to the situation. Being able to go back to that brain dump that Nada had you do and really understand where your value is and where your strengths are, what you're bringing to the table. And so be prepared with that, know and have that that confidence of what you know about yourself when you're going into a networking event or into an interview, and understand how it applies to the specific thing you're looking for, what you're asking for. How does your background apply to this job in this company? Why do you care about this job in this company? I'll talk more about that. Take notes, be prepared to take notes. And why is this? I'm going to talk more about this in a second. People love believing that you've listened to them as much as they've listened to you. If you take notes, if you find one of those commonalities during a question, that's your follow-up cue. That's your foot in the door, right? So find those commonalities, listen to them, take notes about it so that you can follow up 2 days from now or 3 days from now, and you're like, now who was it that was also a horseback rider, or whatever the case is. Prepare yourself. In an interview, most of our interviews have been virtual. 100% of our interviews have been virtual since last March. My company has doubled in size during that time, and they've all been virtual. And I'm here to tell you, I still know when people iron their clothes. I still know when and what I mean by that, and we all get a giggle when I say that, even though I say it literally every time I do a presentation like this. Please, for God's sake, iron your clothes. And it's not just because I can see the wrinkles online. It's because you'll feel better about yourself. You know that you've prepared all the way down to looking sharp and feeling good about yourself. It makes you sit taller, it gives you that confidence, and you need that confidence based on everything we've been talking about. All right. Boils down to knowing your search and knowing yourself. We've talked a lot about knowing yourself, but also know what you're looking for. So we talked earlier about how are we going to know what keywords to put on our resume? How are we going to know what to include? You've got to know what you want. You determine that, what's important to you. So it's looking at and it's doing your own research. What roles are piquing your interest and why? What is it about those jobs? Is it the specific of the job? Is it what they're saying in the job description? Because you can go ahead and add some of that to your resume. Is it things about the company? Is it the size of the company? Is it their growth trajectory? Is it the people who work there who you might know? What other things are important to you? Is diversity very important to you? And you want to work with a company like mine that is 50% female and minority. Just kidding, we're the only company in town like that. Know what's important to you, figure out what's important to you, and then understand your core skills and how they apply to those jobs. What of your core skills are you best suited for? What roles apply directly to those? Know your superpower or your brand, as we refer to it. You've got one, everybody does. It's the thing that kept coming up when you were doing that brain dump that Nada had you do earlier. It's that thing that you've done at a lot of jobs, or that thing that your friends or your coworkers still call you about. Those things that you're particularly good at. It's the thing that sets you apart in a sea of engineers or developers or human resources. Use that as your strengths highlighter. That superpower is really where you're going to keep leaning back in and looping them around in those conversations, especially those conversations you have to guide, right? The yes, no questions, figure out a way to turn that into, and here's my skill that we want to lean in on based on that question that you asked or frankly didn't. Know your value and ask for your value. You should know what your value is. And I don't just mean your monetary market value. I mean the role you want to do, the role you're qualified and capable to do. Go in there with the confidence of in there, wherever that is, a virtual conversation, an interview, reaching out on LinkedIn, know your value. So as I said earlier, people really like talking about themselves too. It's made my job pretty easy for the last 27 years because I ask people about themselves and they get to talk about themselves. And we get to just listen. Sometimes it's a little pulling teeth, but ultimately people like talking about themselves. People also like to know that people are actively wanting to know about them. So show an active interest in them and in the conversation. You do that by preparing questions that are appropriate for the situation. Start with what's important to you.
Go ahead, Alma.
Alma, did you have a question?
She go. Oh, there she is.
She has something.
Yeah, sorry, I got lost in all the screen. I have, you haven't, I don't think you've gotten there quite yet, but I have this burning question. What do the two of you think about people who interview for profit? So I spend some time with people in the cybersecurity space who have suggested to apply for jobs to just practice the interviewing. What do you suggest, or what is your take on that? Someone even said to me, when I'm asked, so why do you want to work for us, or why are you applying for this job? The answer is, I don't. I just want to stay on top of my interviewing game.
It's not my job to train other people how to interview. I do this as a favor, and because we love being associated with your organization. So for someone to apply and actually gets to a conversational stage, that almost feels offensive. You've wasted my time. Like, now you owe me money because this is what I do for a living, is help people with that.
Yeah, and
so that seems that's a strange, I'm struggling with that advice.
And I'm going to go back to kind of what I said in the cover letter. Like, this is not a selfish endeavor. Actually, interviewing for a job should be a conversation in which the two of you are, in which whomever in good faith is exploring whether or not it makes sense to build a professional relationship, right? And for me, just interviewing for the heck of it, or to interviewing to build your skills is actually outright offensive.
Yeah.
And I think that there are ways to hone your interviewing skills. You can tell those people, I'd love to get together and do a virtual interviewing practice. Let's do it. We're offering, you guys offer that here. We could offer that, right? We could offer another event.
Yeah,
like
there are
that.
better ways to do that than to waste someone else's.
I got to tell you, if you did that to someone at my company, and then I went somewhere else and I heard about you, or someone asked me about you, I'd be like, oh, you want to look twice. You want to think twice.
Yeah, I'd say you'd be blackballed from other consideration in my company.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, so definitely, collectively, we're discouraging that strongly. And again, want to find other routes for that. And one of the other routes for that would be let those recruiting firms help you out with that.
Yeah.
It's their job to
That is
help
yes.
prep you for interview. If you go in, even if they don't have an active job for you, they might have folks who really will, take that time to do mock interviews. And I mean, we used to when we were with recruiting firms
All the time.
There's some resources you can do online.
Wow, I'm so glad I asked that question, because people were giving me this advice in good faith. Like, they were like, I have anxiety around interviewing. Like, I've gotten really nervous and totally bombed interviews. Like, it's all psychological. If you were to say to me, this is not an interview, I would crush it. And the moment you say to me, it's an interview, I can't do it. So I understand that they were coming from a place of good intentions, but I'm so glad I asked this question, because the last thing I want to do is give that impression that I'm just like, I'm joking around, or I'm fooling around, or I'm playing games, right?
Exactly. You're going to get your best training. Respectfully. They're just boys. But let's go back to what you were saying. So the root of this was that somehow the interview process shakes your nerves, and that's an easy place to fall apart. One that is so common, and you should know, we're all used to it. All of us trained professionals on the other side of the desk, we know that, and we take it into consideration. We absolutely expect and accept that people, let's face it, especially engineers, can be particularly nervous and shaken in the interview process. So we give you points and credit for that. We get it. It's something we're taking into consideration. The other thing is, typically the reason that people get nervous and have those struggles during the interview is because they don't have the confidence they need to have the conversation and make it conversational. This is what we want you to prepare for. when you're thoroughly prepared, when you know what your kind of talking points are, when you know what's cool about that job, and when you know some questions to ask, that you can kind of, again, own that story. So it's going back to, you know, going back to the beginning of the conversation here, where it's about the more you know about yourself, and really this slide is it in a nutshell, preparing to understand the company, understand what you're looking for, understand what they're looking for, you can turn it into the conversation. So talking about that preparation, it's preparing questions and starting with what's important to you. Know what you're looking for. Again, going back when you're looking at different jobs, what's piquing your interest and why? So know what's important to you. If culture is important to you, be prepared to ask about the culture. If diversity is important to you, be prepared to ask about their diversity initiatives. Ask about the opportunity for growth there if you're looking for a growth trajectory, et cetera. So figure out what's important to you during that brain dump. That's another great opportunity for you to kind of vet out what you're looking for. Then think about what's important to them. What are they looking for out of you? What do they need from you? And ask questions that drive that conversation. How do you define success for this role, right? How can I be successful for you? What can I give to you that's going to make this company better? What are the biggest challenges for this position? How can I help you guys overcome those things? And then find out next steps. It's part of closing, right? It's figuring out the next thing. We just talked about how everyone gets ghosted, and the ghosting thing is so common now. It's a crying shame and really gross, and I'm so sorry. I apologize on behalf of all of human resources around the country. However, what I'll say is you can help mitigate that by asking what that next step is and when to expect that next call and how you can follow up if you don't hear from them. You take that close. There are a couple example questions there. To prepare those and get yourself prepared and comfortable, do the research. Research the company beyond the website. Frankly, if you read my website tip to toe, you'd still have to be hard pressed to figure out what the heck we do. If you read some of our articles on the problems that we're solving at Data.World, you have a much better understanding of what we do and be able to speak a little bit more clearly to me and ask better questions, right? I read your whole website tip to toe and I'm still a little unclear on what you do. That's totally fair. Frankly, I worked there for a month and a half before I knew what we did. Don't tell anyone. HR, I can get away with that shit. Understand the role, really research the role, dig into it. What do the bullets on that role mean? Here's a little fun fact. Those top 3 to 5 bullets on both the job description, the role function, as well as the requirements, those are the most important things to the company. We float them right to the top for a reason. It is, for the most part, in order of importance. So really dig into where your knowledge lies around those top few bullets and be ready to speak to those. Research your interviewers. If they give you the names, ask for them. If they don't, by the way, who will I be talking with? Guess what? They're on LinkedIn too. You can learn a little bit about them, like where you both went to school together or what hobbies you might have in common. Or, oh, you follow, you know, Warren Buffett too, or whatever the case is. Who do you know who might know someone who knows something? Ask them what they can tell you also. Use your network, either the one you're forming, right? Reaching out to those folks, the randoms that we talked about, or the network that you already have. You might have a friend who used to work there. And then practice. So we talked about this too. It's not practice on us. Let's practice on your friends, your family, other people, recruiting firms. That's what they get paid for. Use your friends and family. Take advantage of the networking groups. This organization, us being here today, is obviously a great opportunity for that.
Well, and Alma, as an introvert who like just has fits over interviewing. I mean, I really do. I mean, not interviewing other people, but being interviewed, right? I mean, I can interview other people all day long, because hey, but so I actually, I practice in the mirror. I know that sounds funny, but I'll like go over my resume, over my background, and I'll say things like, you may want to know more about how I built a recruiting function where we hired, you know, this many people over this period of time. Or I'm particularly proud of this, you know, of this thing that I did, right? And I kind of anticipate it based on the job. And that conversation in the mirror just helps me get comfortable with my story so that when someone asks me a question about it, it just rolls out. I've already practiced it. I've already put the words in my head and I can relax, right? Because I mean, in the interaction that we've had with you here, even on this little postage stamp, I mean, you're you've got good energy, you've got charisma on the camera, you've got what you need, girl, right?
Yes, because this isn't an interview.
It's just a matter of giving yourself credit for it, right? You just practice. And no one's going to care. Like, you know, maybe your dog's going to laugh at you if you talk to your cat or whatever pet you have, right? Or, you know, your roommate. But it's worth it because it just eases that.
Really does. And I don't know if the rest of you do like I do, where you script yourself at 3 a.m, where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I'd say that in that conversation. Or when someone asks me this, I'm going to say that. That actually doesn't work that well. Say it out loud. She's right about getting to the mirror. Saying it out loud is very different. So do the say it out loud.
It's like reading your resume to yourself, your cover letter to yourself. It matters.
Yeah, do it out loud. I know that sounds a little nutty, but it's true. So in kind of pulling everything together, our wrap up, one of the things I want to say also is follow up on all of these conversations and networking that we've talked about. Follow up every time you submit your resume, follow up. Don't just let them ghost you. Find someone to follow up with. Find the HR people, find the recruiters, find the potential peers or the hiring manager for the position. Follow up with that person you met. I'm that person you met, not as that person you met. You can follow up with us. You've got 2 more people in your network who, you know, do this for a living. Follow up about that good introduction. Oh, I can introduce you to a friend of mine who, okay, it's Tuesday now. You still haven't introduced me. Let me follow up on that. Hey, just checking in. When are you going to introduce me to that guy, John, you were talking about? And then follow up after each interview. And when I talked earlier about the following up, remember I said, get to know these people, find some little common thread. So when you follow up, you can follow up in a more personal or a more connected way. That's how to network. It's not, I'm going to forget your name tomorrow, but I'm going to remember little things about you. And if you bring that back up on LinkedIn, now I've heard your name twice and I've got that connection with you. Now I'm going to remember it. So follow up after each of those opportunities to follow up and keep that connection and create that connection. So what else? Be nice to everyone. And you've all heard this story already, right? The receptionist can be your next boss, yada, yada. Be nice to everyone. Here's why. We talk about you all behind your backs. We all do. I just told you 7 people told me that this one candidate reached out to them because we all talk about each other. We talk about you. We talk about you.
It's a very human thing.
We all talk about each other. That's what humans do. And we all know that to be true. I smile and nod and laugh, but we all know it to be true. Let's get honest here. And we will, that's right. We all like the tea, and and we will tell each other. And that goes a long way. It really makes a difference. And it's not just he or she was rude to me, and we're going to hear it. We also hear the particularly nice. Right? We do. Oh my gosh, they were so pleasant. Can we hire them? Well, they're not qualified for the job, but I hear you. Right. So be nice to everyone.
How can we help them?
Exactly.
Seriously,
Exactly.
if you're nice, we will help you. Or people who go out of their way, especially now. I actually think this is a unique time where we've all just been gobsmacked, right? We have all just had our worlds pulled out from under us. And so we're trying to figure out how to work together again. And we want to spread as much kindness as we can. So kind of remember that, right?
And then the kicker, right? This is what I've been talking about all the way through. You got to shake off your shy. This isn't easy. This is particularly uneasy and uncomfortable for a lot of folks. And we know that, we accept that. Like I said, we acknowledge that the interview process is intimidating. We know that you're reaching out beyond your comfort zone. We give you points for that for sure. So as hard as it is, as awkward and uncomfortable as it is, if you're walking towards someone to shake their hand and trip over your own feet, we get that, and we're going to forgive you, and we're going to help you up. And so go ahead and take that step out of your comfort zone. It's what's going to get you that next job. As Nada said, it's less common now that people are applying to a job and getting the job. It really is digging into that network and standing out in some way. Sometimes that's who you know. The better prepared you are, the easier it is to be confident. I think I've said that several times, and that kind of wraps this. Yeah, that kind of wraps this all up with
right, Alma? Right, practicing in front of the mirror, right?
Know your stuff. Get yourself prepared. Prepare yourself for any events and activities and interviews. The more prepared you are, the stronger you're going to be, and the stronger you're going to feel. Know your own story and own the story in the interview.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that we had questions along the way and then we got to talk to y'all along the way, but what else? What did we miss? What else can we dig deeper into or cover?
I wanted to ask a little bit more about the networking side. So one of the things that I want to, I guess, avoid, I don't want people to think that I just want to talk to them because I want a job. Like, of course I want a job. I am seeking a job, but I have a job right now. So I'm not like, oh, like coming from a place of like desperation. I want to have a conversation. So, you know, someone in my network who I don't really know well, we're just in a similar organization. We're in the same organization, not similar, the same organization. He has a really interesting job, super interesting. And I just really want to learn more about what she does. And she actually like ghosted, she didn't ghost me. She just didn't show up to our last call. And she said she felt bad about it and that the role they were interviewing for had been filled. So I don't want her to think that I just wanted to talk to her because I want a job. I really want to learn about what she does. So my question is like, how do I avoid this in the future where people are like, oh, she just wants to talk to me because there's this job opening?
All you do,
You answered your own question.
you did. Yeah, you did. You say, hey, you know what? I said, I'm interested in learning about what you do. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not asking you to help me get a job. I just want to learn more about what you do because I think it's interesting. End of story.
Oh gosh, thanks for mentioning the job, but that's not actually why I wanted to meet with you. I was just hoping to get to know you a little bit better because your
And to
job
learn what
sounds
you
super
do.
cool.
Yeah, that's it.
You basically already said you're explaining to us what you want to talk to her about.
You know?
Tell her.
Yes, candor.
Okay.
Super weird how that honesty and
totally
that
works.
directness keeps working in life. So
Candor
yeah,
has worked for me my whole life. Honestly, it has worked for me. That's my superpower.
There you go. That's right. That's right. That's one of her superpowers. And that is a superpower in HR. So that's it. And it's the what we talked about earlier of kind of finding your give and your take. What you're asking from her is tell you more about the job. What can you give her? So think about that too. Can you buy her a cup of coffee to talk about her job? Sure, why not? Would love to take you to a cup of coffee and learn more about it.
Look at Jose ask a question.
What's going on, Jose?
So this is more like a procedural question, I guess. It might be a matter of fact, but I haven't gone on any interviews, and so like I know the tech interviews are kind of split, right? So you have just the regular interview, and then if you get your technical interview, like how are they structured? I mean, do you go in one office and you do good, then you go to the next office and do the technical interview? I'm not sure.
How we do what we do has changed in the last year. And so for the virtual interviews, when we were live, it did used to be, we had it set up where a candidate would sit in one room and the interviewers would come and rotate through, right? Now we can split there are 5 people interviewing. I could have 2 of them on Tuesday and 3 of them on Thursday. It's,
Which
just
I think stinks.
Google Meet. It's kind of a drag. At the same time, it makes my scheduling a little bit easier.
Right, yeah,
that capability. But so it is so different now. What we've been doing is really just one-on-one Zoom calls or Google Meet in our case, where you have your 45-minute or 30-minute, whether it's 1 or 2 engineers or team members or hiring team members talking, and then you'd hang up and go to your next one, or there might be an hour gap in between, or whatever the case is. And then our technical tests, we've had, it's been 2 or 3 of our team members phoning in for you. And we're doing them virtually too. So we've done no live interviews or no in-person interviews since COVID.
Nor have we. And so ours are very similar. Typically, there'll be a recruiter screen, the hiring manager, a technical challenge, and then the interview with the team, and then which is a discussion of the technical challenge. Like, look, tell us why you did what you did here. So there's a sense of like how you interact with the team and how you reasoned through the decisions. There's not always a particular, right answer or particular answer they're looking for. It's more like, okay, let's like hear your decision, your troubleshooting, your engineering
Thought process.
right?
Yeah.
So that's
Your
why,
approach.
it's so like, if you do something in a technical challenge, you get to own not only your story, but the product of your technical challenge, right? You've got to be comfortable with it.
Yeah. But definitely common. Have any of you, well, we've got everyone on the phone, have any of you had in-person interviews recently in the last year?
Yeah, I was just hired by my company 2 months ago, and mine was remote with the HR person, remote with my tech lead, and then a remote again with the CEO level, and everything was completely remote for me.
Yeah.
I think it's still primarily remote across the board on the interviewing experience. So again, still have to iron from here up.
Right.
And do not put your knees up if you're married. I know there's a joke about that, but it actually happened to us. We were like, oh gosh.
It's not a good look. I'm surprised what me right here looks like.
Oh geez. Well, I mean, we still have about 20 minutes left, guys. Oh wait, there's a question. How do you navigate around salary? I don't like giving them a number, but they tend to be pushy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'm like, well, my response is, I'm sure you have something budgeted for the role. Why don't you give me a range, and I'll tell you whether or not that's in my range.
Yeah.
And we don't philosophically ask people what they're making.
We don't either.
Right. The exception is with salespeople, we get a little more direct about that, right? Because they've got to produce, but with engineers, it's like, this is a senior engineering role. If you want to know what it is, you'll get a range, right? And the offer may be, if we go to an offer, it may be somewhere in that range. And you shouldn't expect it to be the top or necessarily at the bottom, right? And that's kind of the thing that you have to be mature enough about.
That's what I do too. Our organization gives a range. We know what we're willing to pay for a position, or we shouldn't be a company. We know what we're willing to pay for a position. And so I tend to let them know what our range is. Now that said, if you're asked directly, and as you said, people kind of can get pushy about it, here's a fun stock answer you can give. So what I understand is that the market is paying somewhere between, and you give yourself a big old range, let them find that mid spot for you.
Yeah.
I know in the market, that kind of a role, I've seen it for anywhere between $60,000 and $110,000. Where are you guys targeting?
Exactly.
Oh, do you, sorry. So I live in Oregon, and a lot of jobs are now remote. So do you go based on the salary of whatever state that they're hiring, or do you go based off the salary that you reside in?
Ducks, and that is absolutely.
I'm an Oregonian.
Got our woman from Oregon right here.
I'm married a Texan. Gosh, and I sweat every summer. Anyway.
Still bragging about it.
I know.
So where were we with this question? Hiring and compensation. So that is absolutely up to the company and the company's hiring and compensation philosophy. So my company, for example, we have now hired across 10 different states, but our compensation is based on our headquarters state. So we are compensating based on what we pay in Austin. So I've got someone in Oklahoma who I could take his pay down by probably 15%, but I'm not gonna. We're paying him what we pay in Austin, Texas headquarters. I've also got someone in California who could happily ask for a 30% increase. We're not gonna give it to them. So we're paying, our philosophy is we don't need someone to be in California. That Californian wants an Austin-based job. Yeah. Now, if we need someone in California, we might flip that script.
What Lisa said. exception that we make is for sales roles, we pay to the market because
they need them in the market.
Yeah, because they have to be in the market. But if roles do not need to be in the market, then generally speaking, right? And I actually think it's fair to ask companies how they set their compensation, right?
Especially now.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I mean, upfront, we use market-based compensation for companies that are venture funded in our size.
Yep.
Right?
Same.
We probably use the same data set, I'm sure, right? You know, so, but you want companies that are focused that way, that are looking at data, right? And that aren't just right because they're probably going to underpay.
So is it safe to, I guess, go off the salaries on Glassdoor, or because those range wildly? Like, what would you recommend?
When I say you can respond with the idea of, you know, I've seen everything. I've seen the market anywhere from, you know, $50,000 to $100,000. You've just given them a massive range because that's what you are seeing in the market. By the way, that online salary data is real garbage, y'all, real garbage. So when someone comes to me and is like, I checked salary.com and I should be getting paid $20,000 more. I'm like, oh my God, tell me when you find that company. I want to go work there with you. Right? Life doesn't really work that way. That's self-reported data. It's really garbage. Those of us who use real data, we use paid for a good, clean data that companies that are the true, the company themselves is putting that data in, and so we're getting real actual data. That's what we should be going off of. That's what companies should be using to analyze their compensation and to create their budgets.
But Lorena, that data is actually perfect to use for what Lisa described.
Exactly. I see this on the market, right?
Use it for that. Do not use it to set your expectations.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, you can get a $50,000 ballpark, but that's about it. Right. Yeah. Good question. Really, if that's the regional comp, that's a great question.
And there are bits and pieces of online data. And what I'd say is there are probably 20 free salary data sites, right? Culpeper has some free stuff out there. Salary.com, Payscale, etc. What I'd say is if you want to look at those, look at all of them and find some trends, find some averages going on there. Yeah.
So I do have related to it. So like, let's say you move on to the next interview, the next job. How does that proceed with like salary? Like, do you mention what you made before? Do you kind of ballpark it? How do you bring that up in the next conversation?
My answer is the same as it was before.
Mine too.
Mm-hmm. So out in the market, I'm understanding the range to be from here to here. What are you guys targeting for your for this role?
I personally wouldn't volunteer like the information of what I'm currently getting paid.
Now, if someone asks what you're currently getting paid, if you know, what do you know about what you're getting paid? How do you feel about what you're getting paid? Do you feel like you're in market and you're just looking for a lateral move because you want these other factors in the company? Then okay to be like, yeah, I'm at 100 right now and would like to stay there or do a little better. Or also understand the other components. Is healthcare coverage or stock options important to you? Do they have a bonus plan? So know what the rest of the story is too, and make sure you're looking at total compensation.
Looking at like, okay, how do I analyze an offer? That we could do a whole session.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, it would be kind of fun.
In fact, that I really would, and that's something that we would be happy to do. It's a talk I've done a couple times before, is negotiating the offer. So we can certainly talk about that.
Just for the sake of other people who are transitioning to this, when you were saying other things to consider, some things to consider that I considered in the past, and I know everybody's working from home now, was some places you only have to come in 3 days a week, 10 to 3. You also get money for any kind of like tools you need, computers, etc. And you get money for education. If you need conferences and things like that, you'll get that paid for as well. So just for everybody else, and you're muted.
Total compensation package. And back when we were talking about what's important to you, is continuing education important to you? Is keeping fresh with your skill set important to you? Then it might be important for you to ask, hey, how do you guys take care of people's continued education? How do you grow your employees? Do you pay for education? You know, stipends, that kind of thing. So include those in your questions. Figure out what's important to you, and that applies to that compensation package also. Right, the person with 5 kids loves my company because we pay for 100% of their family's health and dental and vision. Right.
And that's, wow, that's
I know, it's really super.
I'm like going, wow.
It really is.
Wow. I mean, I felt pretty good about what we paid, but not that good.
Well, here, then let me
Yeah.
give you this. We don't do any stock option, or stock option. We don't do any 401k matching.
Yeah.
We put our money there.
Right.
We don't have someplace else.
Right.
It's totally giving you
We use
that
different stuff. I know, we don't, I know,
No.
not yet. Not yet.
I remember the last time that actually the first time I met y'all. The last event that we had in person. Actually, I want to say that I might have been with y'all.
Data.World, yeah.
The last in person.
Was it at Data.World?
I think
so.
I think that may have been our actual.
It was in November or October. I think it was like in October, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we did everything for Thanksgiving, and then everything for December.
And then the one, so.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, so full circle, but no.
We've been like part of it all.
Yeah.
You are.
One of the things that you brought up when we had a similar discussion then was, how do I look at it and know that I'm qualified enough? And historically, women of color, women in general, people of color, we tend to self-reject so quickly, and I was just hoping you could touch on that a little bit.
Imposter syndrome. We're having an imposter syndrome conversation. How many of us have had that? How many of us know what that means? How many of us have experienced it live through our entire lives and careers?
Yep.
Right. Us too, by the way. Sure wish we had that magic button. All we can say is that same thing. It's about that confidence. It's about that self-awareness. It's knowing your story. And here's what else I'll say. There's some statistic, and we talked about this statistic, as a matter of fact. I remember whipping this one out, that something like
women need 80% of all of the qualifications before they're like, oh, I'm vaguely qualified, and they'll apply. And typical males will need about 30%.
Yeah. So that a white male reads a job description. If they meet about 30% of it, they're like, oh yeah, I should apply. A woman, a person of color reads a job description. If they have 80% of it, they're like, I mean, maybe am I pushing it?
I haven't done that.
All right. So yeah. So it's knowing your story, knowing your skill level, not having that fear of, hey, maybe this 30 or 50% is the core of what they're looking for. And it's worth saying, hey, in your cover letter, I said that I don't read the cover letters unless there's a gap. This is one of those gap moments. Hey, I know it looks like I've only got 30%. This is how great I am at that 30%.
Yeah, I just wanted to because I distinctly remember you guys saying that, and honestly, it's carried me through since then.
Good.
With everything that I learned from
Good.
so.
Good. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Bleeping apply.
And own it. Own your 50%. Own
Yeah.
your story. You're great. You're going to kick butt at that 50% and go in there knowing it.
Looks like
And if they
Jose.
needed the other parts more, then you move on to the next.
Go ahead, Jose.
I think, you guys covered it, but just kind of elaborate a little bit more if you could. So job search, LinkedIn, networking, but any other tools that, to focus your time, other than LinkedIn. So for example, like going to companies' websites and actually submitting an application to their website, or any other online tools other than LinkedIn that we can maybe just kind of want to take a break from LinkedIn and do those. What are the best use of our time?
Job boards. There are so many job boards. I bet there are 500 job boards out there. There are some that are specific. I bet there is a job board for Hispanic engineers.
99 3/4%.
Yes, I'm in Prospanica, which is a national organization, and I get a job board notice from them like every other day. Jobs that I can't apply for because it's not for me, but they do have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, dig into those things.
Veteran. Hello.
Yes, veteran.
Hello, veteran.
Use those resources. Get creative about the types of networking activities you do in groups like this that you join too. You've probably got a list of 6 or 23 technical skills you have now. There are meetup groups that are keying in on those various. There's a Python Python meetup group in Austin is one of the largest meetup groups in Austin. As a matter of fact, it's massive. I've done a lot of work with them as well.
Yes.
In fact, that's where I first did my negotiating your offer conversation. But there are, dig deep and look for those meetup groups, those user groups, those online networks. There are, Facebook groups that are specific to technology functions, and dig deep. I encourage you to research. I encourage you to Google the heck out of that, because there are more job boards and more user groups than you are aware of, and those are the opportunities to user groups, the opportunity to network. The job boards never hurts. You're rolling dice.
The other thing too is, and I hope I don't get struck by lightning being here at Capital Factory, but there are technology jobs in other places, like universities, like UT, like the city of Austin, like the county that
Literally any city.
Like that are not in tech, that they're not in tech startups.
Yes, there are technology jobs
and
in not
we actually have a really interesting research arm at UT that does that, that literally, rocket scientists work for, and would love to have a veteran of, of Hispanic origin, right, work for them, and I will drop that. I'll send it to one of you guys so you can share the job board. And I have coffee every day with one of the guys that runs the IT organization there. And I told him I was coming to this group. He's like, "Oh my God, tell them about my job posting."
Now she's
People
wondering
know
how to
people,
tell you all about
yeah.
the job posting.
Yeah, well, no, actually, I just want to make sure that I send it. But I want to tell you guys, don't limit it to tech startups. This is not the only world.
Right.
And it's not the only world where you're going to get technology experience. And just because you don't start in a tech startup doesn't mean you can't go to a tech startup.
Absolutely. We just hired 3 people from HEB. We just hired 3 engineers from HEB. HEB, a grocery store.
Has done some
But that's the point, right? You don't think of HEB when you're looking for your software design job. And yet you should. Cross industries. That's a really great point. The other thing we'll reinforce is that you don't have to be looking for jobs that are Austin based anymore. There are so many remote jobs now. Open your world. Work for the Oregon based company. Live in Austin, work for that Oregon based company.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So let me think. Where else?
What else?
There's a lot of Slack channels that literally an entire Slack channel will be just a bunch of jobs, a bunch of job postings.
Yeah, Austin Code Mentorship's a really good one for that.
Yeah.
They have a lot of job postings there.
We should like gather all this and just
You
post
guys
on the
totally
website.
should create a spreadsheet of this for the group. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll get that on.
Just a
Yeah.
list of
Well, there's
resources.
actually there's something it's on our Slack channel, but there was a tweeted list of different remote jobs that was sent out, I think last month, and I sent it to the group chat on the general chat on
I
Slack.
remember when COVID first happened, and a lot of jobs started to go remote at least. There was that list. Okay, who's gone remote already? And that list existed back then last year.
Well, and the other thing I'm going to say is the companies that are trying to get everyone to come back to the office, like entirely without a hybrid model, I would ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right. If you're questioning some of the company's decisions, understand that you're going to then eventually question a lot of the company's decisions. So that's a good point.
Sam and David Alvaro. Sam said they hired 3 software engineers from HEB.
Yes.
Yeah, we sure did.
From the Austin Development Operation, said David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 2 engineers and a program manager, technically.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. There is so much in Austin, for sure. And I just
Okay.
All right, so Nada shared the Applied Research Lab information, and we'll have your partners here share that with your whole group, so you've got access to that.
But again, look outside of just the tech startups.
Such a great point.
Yeah, I mean, that's, there's enough work for everybody.
Absolutely.
And again, getting experience in a larger, more mature organization is really good stuff to bring to startups. You know, then you just have to learn to re-swizzle and convince us that, you know, you can work at a small company. It's doable.
But if you know your story and you have it on your resume properly, that's already told for you.
Yeah, and I can honestly speak to that too. Amazon obviously is a huge company, and there are times where I'm just like, you know, smaller company might be cool because you just get lost in the sauce in the larger companies. Kind of reminiscent of my Army times as well. So
Feeling like a number again, are you? From time to time, I get that. Here's what I'll say about that. You are building a skill that we are going to steal. We're coming after you, lady. We're coming after you. Give us another year or two and we're coming after you.
It's been a while since I got out of the military. And Jose, I got you, man. You know, you're my veteran in kin here, and yeah, just stick with me. You'll be fine.
I grew up.
Thank you.
I remember that.
Exactly. Thank you. So, all right, Minor.
9 o'clock, guys.
Thank you.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much for inviting us back.
Yes.
So much for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for working with us through all this tech stuff.
Oh my gosh.
We're so grateful that you all welcome us back, and most importantly, that you're so engaging and engaged, that you had the conversation with us. And so we're really grateful that you make it fun and easy for us too. So thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be all the time for today. I hope everybody had a good time. I know I learned a lot of stuff. Please, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us on Slack, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, all of the different places you can think of. Reach out to us there, and we will do our best to get you connected to anybody that we can. Please join the community and ask questions, and we're here to help you out and to make sure that everybody can feel included.
That was great.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, good luck. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
You guys.